Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy. The list of topics chosen for today's discussion, along with the page numbers, is given here for your reference.
Let us take up this news article which talks about the opinion given by former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan. So in this news article, Mr. Raghuram Rajan talks about how to improve the present economic situation of the country. See, most of us know that the developing countries, including India, is facing one of the worst economic crises due to COVID-19. So in this context, let us discuss important suggestions given by Mr. Raghuram Rajan to improve the present economic condition. Before going further, the relevant syllabus is given here for your reference. See, firstly, countries like India, Mexico and even Peru have been very badly affected by the pandemic. This can be seen both in terms of infection rates of COVID-19 and also the adverse effects of COVID-19 on households and firms. But what is happening is, many governments, including Indian government, have been very cautious to spend because they have lower resources for relief. So they don't want to push themselves into huge debt or fiscal deficit because this may lead to downgrading by rating agencies. So what does it mean? Firstly, we said that governments themselves are not having money to spend. So if they borrow money to spend, it may lead to huge debt or fiscal deficit for the government. When there is high deficit or high debt, the rating agencies will downgrade the Indian economy. So what happens when rating agencies downgrade India's economy? See, when ratings are very bad, foreign players may not invest much into India. So because of this reason, governments are not willing to borrow more. And according to Mr. Rajan, waiting for the pandemic to be over and then spending a huge stimulus package won't be a good idea. This is because our small and medium firms and including households are under severe distress. So the right thing to do now is to spend to reduce the damage caused by COVID-19. So to make it even more simple, emerging markets like India must take urgent relief measures to address distress in households and small firms. So what happens if relief is not provided? See, if relief is not provided, these small and medium firms will run out of business. When there is no business, automatically it leads to no spending from the households. So even when the economy recovers in the future, its potential growth would be reduced, especially from the supply side. As we said before, if firms are running out of business, they may shut down. So in the future, even if economy comes back to normal, there are no firms to supply the goods and services. And according to Rajan, another issue of a large scale stimulus spending is that it may lead to high inflation. So what is inflation? It is increase in general level of prices. See, whenever government spends more, it results in public having more money. When public is having more money, automatically they spend more, which leads to high demand. When there is high demand and if supply is unable to match the high demand, automatically the prices will go up. And we must also know that there is a limitation on fiscal deficit under FRBM Act of 2003. See, what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is the difference between total expenditure of the government and total receipts excluding the borrowings. Simply put, it is an indication of the total borrowings of the government. Already the fiscal deficit for the current year, that is 2020 and 21, is raised to 3.8%. So already fiscal deficit is increased for the current year. And if government goes on increasing the fiscal deficit, as said before, it may lead to high inflation. So what can be done to provide relief measures without getting downgraded by the rating agencies? So here Rajan says that government can increase the fiscal deficit, but we need to convince the rating agencies that we will maintain fiscal discipline in the medium term, that is in the next 5 years. So for this, we need to build institutions to convince the markets and rating agencies. For example, this can be done by adopting a debt target with a legislation, or then appointing an independent fiscal commission to look into the fiscal figures of government, etc. So if such measures are taken, these could trigger a virtuous cycle of economy. So what is a virtuous cycle? See, in virtuous cycle of growth, the increase in rate of fixed investment accelerates the growth of GDP. And this growth of GDP in turn induces a higher growth in consumption. This higher growth of consumption improves the investment outlook, which again results in higher growth of fixed investment. And as said before, this fixed investment further increases the GDP. So this becomes a cycle wherein first we are increasing the fixed investment so that the businesses will improve, automatically the GDP improves. When GDP improves, it means public gets more money. When public has more money, it leads to consumption. When people are buying more and more, it improves the investment outlook. So when investment outlook is improved, again people come and invest in the country. This becomes a cycle where increase in one pedestal leads to another one. So this is called virtuous cycle. So this virtuous cycle of higher fixed investment, higher GDP growth, higher consumption generates more economic development and more employment in the country. And according to Rajan, the alternate to this is a vicious cycle. That is, if government does nothing, that is, it is not improving the fixed investments, the household will not spend as they lack money. Then the private sector will deteriorate as there is no consumption from the people. When there is no private sector investment or purchases, automatically the growth potential will fall. This cycle will continue and country will fall into huge debt with very less growth potential. Thus, the rating agencies will be downgrading the Indian economic position. So, we have two options here. One is virtuous cycle and other is vicious cycle. For virtuous cycle to take on, we need more government investments. So, let us hope that government will do all the best efforts to revive and stabilize the economic growth. Let us now take this news article which talks about the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. See, this year the Nobel Prize for Chemistry was awarded to Emmanuel Charpentier of France and Jennifer Doudna of the US for the gene editing technique known as CRISPR-Cas9. See, this topic assumes very high significance with the frequent appearance of prelims questions on genetic engineering. For example, we had a CRISPR-Cas9 question in 2019 and gene editing question in 2020. So, this topic is very important and highly relevant in exam perspective. So, in this context, let us discuss gene editing and the technique of CRISPR-Cas9. The relevant syllabus is given here for your reference. See, firstly, we will try to understand what is gene editing or genome editing. See, before that, what is genome? See, genome is the complete set of genes or genetic material present in a cell or an organism. So, simply put, the entire set of genetic material is called genome. So, what is genome editing then? See, genome editing is a method which helps us to change the DNA. It includes insertion, deletion or even replacement of DNA at a specific site in the genome. This editing of DNA can lead to many changes, for example, as simple as change in eye color to as extreme as designing the human babies. It is to be noted here that scientists use different technologies to do this gene editing, and the first genome editing was developed as early as in 20th century. So, how is this gene editing possible? See, it is achieved using engineered nucleases. Simply, these engineered nucleases are called molecular scissors. As of now, there are three types of engineered nucleases or molecular scissors. They are zinc finger nucleases, and second one transcription activator like effector nucleases, and third one is CRISPR-Cas9. And this CRISPR-Cas9 is the latest one which was invented in the year 2009. And this technique has made gene editing very easier compared to earlier methods. This is because CRISPR-Cas9 technique is simple, fast, cheap and even more accurate compared to old genome editing methods. And for this technique, Emmanuel and Jennifer were awarded Nobel Prize in Chemistry. So let us have a brief understanding of this CRISPR-Cas9 technique. See, CRISPR stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. Simply, CRISPRs are repeated DNA structures. See, in 2012, scientists discovered that this CRISPR is a key part of immune system. Further know that CRISPR-Cas9 system consists of two key molecules. First one is Cas9. This Cas9 is an enzyme naturally produced by bacteria. For instance, when a virus enters a bacterium, the bacterium fights back by cutting up the virus's DNA. So this kills the virus. So the bacteria capture snippets of DNA from invading viruses and use them to create DNA segments known as CRISPR arrays. So this CRISPR arrays allow the bacteria to remember the viruses. So if the same virus or related virus attacks the bacteria again, the bacteria produce the CRISPR arrays to target the virus's DNA. So the bacteria then use the Cas9 enzyme to cut the DNA part which disables the virus. So simply you can infer that bacteria, by using this CRISPR DNA structures and Cas9 enzyme to fight against the viruses. So in this fight against the virus, the bacteria cuts the DNA of foreign element, that is virus here. And if you see, this Cas9 is acting as a scissor wherein it cuts the DNA of virus. And now this Cas9 protein or an enzyme is created or engineered in labs. So scientists have been experimenting this technique in humans and largely it proved to be successful. And the second one is a piece of RNA called guide RNA. So this is a short RNA sequence which perfectly matches with the original DNA sequence in the organism which needs to be edited. So with the help of this guide RNA, the Cas9 enzyme cuts the DNA at the right point in the genome. If you see this picture, the guide RNA is designed to find and bind to a specific sequence in the DNA. Then the Cas9 follows the guide RNA to the same location in a DNA sequence and makes the cut across both strands of DNA. After this, the cell recognizes that DNA is damaged and tries to repair it. And while repairing, this guide RNA enters into the original DNA structure and causes mutation, as you can see in this picture. So this is how the CRISPR-Cas9 technique is used to edit the genome. So what are the applications of genome editing? Firstly, genome editing helps us to investigate different diseases that affect humans. Secondly, developing of gene therapies to prevent and treat diseases in humans. For example, diseases like sickle cell anemia, diabetes, and a range of medical conditions that have a genetic component like cancer and other inheritable diseases can be treated with genome editing techniques. And as we all know, technology is always a double-edged sword. So what are the concerns associated with gene editing? Firstly, it makes irreversible changes to every cell in the body. So it leads to changes even in the future generations and may endanger the entire human race. Second, there are issues related to unintentional edits or persistent editing effects. So if this gene editing is having unintentional effects, it may have long-term health and safety consequences. Thirdly, many consider genome alterations to be unethical and advocate that nature should be left to run its own course and humans have nothing to do with changing the natural selection. And lastly, it can be a tool for selecting desired characteristics such as intelligence and attractiveness. Nothing but designer babies. So in the future, the parents may start designing their own babies which may affect human racial diversity. And in the recent days, this gene editing is also used to eliminate species of organisms. So this elimination of certain organisms may upset the careful balance of ecosystems and may have disastrous consequences like disrupting the food web. So this is all about the gene editing, the CRISPR-Cas9 technique and the concerns associated with gene editing techniques. Let us move on to next news article discussion. This news article and editorial discusses the recent developments in the Quad. Let us see those recent developments in exam perspective. The relevant syllabus is given here for your reference. See, as we all know, the Quad stands for Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, which is a dialogue mechanism among the countries India, US, Japan and Australia. And very recently, the second Quad minister level meeting happened. The foreign ministers of the four countries met in person and discussed several matters. And many decisions have been taken in the meeting, like to make the foreign ministers meet an annual event, to cooperate on combating the pandemic, to cooperate on building infrastructure, connectivity and supply chain initiative in this region. So based on these decisions, author of this editorial infers that Quad has entered a decisive phase. So far it was just a dialogue mechanism wherein the countries met and discussed, but there were no productive happenings. But now, with these decisions being made, it can be inferred that Quad is now in decisive phase. And one point to be noted here in the meeting was the eagerness displayed by the US. See, US pushed to hold the meeting and that too a direct physical meeting of foreign ministers amidst the pandemic. It shows that how much this meeting assumes importance for US. This is mainly because there is president election happening in America next month. So the meeting is an opportunity for the current administration to show their counter strategy towards China. This was clearly reflected in the speech of Secretary of State of America, Mike Pompeo. He noted that the mission was to direct the Quad towards building a coalition against China's aggression. He even called the other Quad members to collaborate for protecting people and partners from Chinese Communist Party's exploitation, corruption and coercion. So what can be inferred from the recently concluded Quad meeting and the statements given by Mr. Pompeo? First, USA is proposing an additional dimension to Quad, or we can simply say proposing a transformation of Quad. The proposal is to militarize the Quad grouping. See, so far Quad's informal charter was just a coalition of democracies which are committed to free and open Indo-Pacific. But now, the US is keen on transforming the Quad into a full-fledged military alliance of these four countries. This in turn will pave way for conducting military patrols in oceans like America's freedom of navigation operations. We have discussed this freedom of navigation operations in our September 4th Hindu news analysis. Watch that video to get more understanding of FONOP. And second thing that can be inferred from the recent happenings is, among the Quad members, USA is focusing more on the aggression by China and on countering it. So on some angle, it seems like other Quad members like Japan, Australia and India are not entirely willing for directly countering China. To this inference, US officials have clarified that focus here is not on US-China dispute, but it is about the free world versus China authoritarianism. Thus, China's aggression is seen by like-minded countries as an erosion of democracy, erosion of free market economy, erosion of freedom and peace, etc. So everyone wants to act against it. And next, according to author, the statements by Mr. Pompeo suggest a reciprocal relationship with India. See, on one hand, US is interested in bringing India into the bilateral tensions in Indo-Pacific region, and on the other hand, USA is inviting the other Quad members like Japan and Australia to take a role in India-China tensions. But this completely goes against the India's standpoint so far. This is because India many times maintained it does not want others to intrude into India's strategic autonomy. Simply put, India does not want any external interference in its tensions with China. Because of this stand maintained by Indian government, India has already rejected such suggestions given by America. And author opines that India should stand by its decision, because if India allows other countries to take part in India-China disputes, it may seriously affect India's strategic autonomy. Additionally, from above discussion, it is very clear that America is trying to play a dominant role in Quad and Indo-Pacific region and even wants to take the lead in Quad's developments. So author concludes by saying that India and not the US should take the leading role in Quad. It is because Quad is an important initiative for the region where India is an equal and very important stakeholder, that is Indo-Pacific region. And if India leads this Quad grouping, this will benefit India strategically and also in terms of capacity building. So this is all about the discussion of recent developments in Quad grouping, wherein we have talked about annual event of foreign ministers, cooperation in combating the pandemic and building infrastructure, and how US is displaying eagerness to take Quad grouping forward to counter China, and also how US wants to dominate the Quad grouping. So this is all about the discussion of this news article. Let us move on to next news article discussion. This article is about the Supreme Court verdict on indefinite occupation of a public road by Shaheen Bagh protesters. See, we all know that people assembled in Shaheen Bagh of Delhi and protested against the Citizenship Amendment Act. The Supreme Court said that the protest and occupation of Shaheen Bagh is unacceptable as it became inconvenient to the commuters, that is, the users of that road. So in this case, the Supreme Court has made some important observations which can be used in our mains examination. Firstly, Supreme Court upheld the right to peaceful protest against a law, but public ways and public spaces cannot be occupied, that too indefinitely. Supreme Court also said that democracy and dissent go hand in hand, but demonstrations expressing dissent have to be only in designated places. So it means protests can be made in democracy, but such protests should not cause difficulties to other people as well. Supreme Court further said that Shaheen Bagh seemed typical of the many digitally fueled leaderless events. But technology and social media could both empower and weaken mass movements. Advantage is that such platforms provide ability to scale up a movement quickly. And disadvantage is the power of social media to create highly polarized environments with misinformation or fake information. Apart from this, the Supreme Court also said that in a democracy, rights of free speech and peaceful protest were indeed treasured. It means they are valuable. They have to be encouraged and respected as well. But we should note that fundamental rights do not live in isolation. It means you cannot just claim only one fundamental right. The right of protester has to be balanced with the right of commuter. It means the protesters have argued in Supreme Court that it is their fundamental right to assemble peacefully and protest against the government's decision. But Supreme Court noted that one's fundamental right of peaceful protest should not violate others' fundamental right of peaceful existence. So they have to coexist in mutual respect. So in this context, let us have a brief recap of Article 19. See, Article 19 guarantees 6 fundamental rights, which are right to freedom of speech and expression, right to assemble peacefully and without arms, right to form associations, unions or cooperative societies, right to move freely throughout the territory of India, and then right to reside or settle in any part of the territory of India, and the last one, right to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. So we can see that right to peaceful protest is a fundamental right. At the same time, these rights are subjected to reasonable restrictions mentioned in Article 19. So this article empowers state to impose reasonable restrictions on the exercise of these rights. This can be done on the grounds of sovereignty and integrity of the country, security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, or contempt of court, defamation or incitement to an offence. So based on these grounds, government can impose reasonable restrictions on fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 19. And an important case in this regard is Ramlila Maidan case. In this case, Supreme Court stated that citizens have a fundamental right to assembly and peaceful protest, and it cannot be taken away by an arbitrary executive or legislative action. So from this discussion, we can understand that right to peaceful protest and assembly is an inseparable part of a vibrant democracy. And Supreme Court, both in Ramlila Maidan case as well as in Shaheen Bagh case, made it clear that right to protest peacefully is a fundamental right. So this is all about the discussion of this news article. Let us now move on to practice questions discussion session. This question is based on this news article which talks about Sagittarius A. The question says that Sagittarius A, recently seen in news, refers to a Jupiter probe by NASA, a supermassive black hole in Milky Way galaxy, option C, a star near to Sun, option D, a galaxy close to Milky Way. The correct answer is option B, a supermassive black hole in Milky Way galaxy. If you remember, we have talked in depth about black holes in our yesterday's Hindu news analysis. Yesterday we discussed how black holes are formed, and this year the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to researchers for their work in black holes. Let us have a very brief recap on the formation of black holes. See, a star starts dying after running out of energy. When the center of a very big star falls upon itself, it causes a supernova. Supernova is nothing but an exploding star which blasts part of the star into the space. This results in a black hole. So what is a black hole? See, black hole is a place in space where gravity pulls so much that even light cannot pass through it. Here are two previous year questions. What is Cas9 protein that is often mentioned in news? This question came in 2019. Option A molecular scissors used in targeted gene editing. Option B, a biosensor used in accurate detection of pathogens in patients. Option C, a gene that makes plants pest resistant. Option D, a herbicidal substance synthesized in genetically modified crops. As we all know, correct answer is option A molecular scissors used in targeted gene editing. And there is one more previous year question on genetic engineering in 2020 prelims exam. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Genetic changes can be introduced in the cells that produce eggs or sperms of a prospective parent. Yes, the statement 1 is correct. Statement 2. A person's genome can be edited before birth at early embryonic stage. Yes, this is also correct. A person's genome can be edited even during pregnant stage. Statement 3. Human-induced pluripotent stem cells can be injected into the embryo of pig. Yes, this statement is also correct. So the correct answer is option D, 1, 2 and 3. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Fiscal deficit is the difference between total receipts excluding borrowings and total expenditure of the government. Yes, the statement 1 is correct. Simply put, fiscal deficit is about the borrowings of the government. Statement 2. The FRBM Act provides for a maximum deviation of 0.5% of annual fiscal deficit target in case of structural reforms in the economy. Yes, this statement is also correct. According to FRBM Act, the Union government can deviate a maximum of 0.5% from the fiscal deficit target. So both statements are correct. Therefore, correct answer is option C, both 1 and 2. Consider the following. 5 restrictions are given here. Sovereignty and integrity of India, contempt of court, defamation, public order, friendly relations with foreign states. Which of the above could be the reasonable restrictions that state can impose on freedom of speech and expression? As we all know, all 5 can be reasonable restrictions under Article 19 of Indian Constitution. Therefore, correct answer is option D, all the above. Let us take up one mains question. US seems keen on turning the quadrilateral security dialogue into a full-fledged military alliance of countries facing tensions with China. In the light of the above statement, discuss the implications of militarization of Quad. This is a 10 marks question and the word limit is 150. Dear viewers, if you are participating in Mainstorming Scholarship Test, please start writing answers from today itself because it helps you in getting the flow of answer writing and also removes your inertia. If you haven't registered for scholarship test yet, you can register for free of cost by clicking on the link which is in description as well as in the comment section. And also share the details of scholarship test with your friends.
With this, we conclude today's news analysis. If you find this session resourceful, click on the like button, show your appreciation in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.